What a semi-final. Oh, and a hard day, really, but all we can say is congratulations to American Magic for getting back out on the water, and well done to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Some massive improvements over the past few weeks. They will be progressing through to the Prada Cup Final, the Challenger Series for the 36th edition of the America's Cup. Lovely to be with you today. My name's Nick Douglas for Adventures of a Sailor Girl. This is your AC Chat and Wrap debrief show, and great to have you all with us as we have a little bit of a look at the racing today, but also look at what is coming up for us all. Fantastic to talk through the racing of yesterday with Andrew Dog Palfrey last night. He's got some fantastic insights and he really does know his stuff, so that maybe laid the land a little bit for what was going to happen today. But really unfortunate to see how it did end for American Magic with a gear failure there. They actually had a great pre-start and I was really excited to have a good race and at least see them, push it into the end, which is what we all like to see with the America's Cup at the top end of our sport. But speaking of someone who is no stranger to the top of our sport, he's an America's Cup winner, he's a gold medalist, and he's also the winner of the inaugural season of Sail GP. It is Tom Slingsby. An absolute pleasure to have you with us, Tommy, to have a little bit of a chat about what went down today, your thoughts. I mean, you've seen the America's Cup firsthand. What are your thoughts of the 36th edition so far?
I think it's been great. I think the boats are exciting. I think the racing, the America's Cup, there's always going to be exciting races and not exciting. It's much easier to have a non-event than it is to have an event because it's a design race. People go down their pathway and usually one boat comes back a lot faster than the other. And so we have seen some great racing. This weekend obviously wasn't great. It was a bit of a whitewash, but look, I think Luna Rossa are very impressive. Huge gains in the last week.
Indeed, massive gains in the last week, and I think we can't underplay those gains that we've seen from Luna Rossa. It's easy to say that maybe American Magic lost these past four races rather than Luna Rossa winning, but they look like they've stepped up a level.
Yeah, for sure. I think they've made a big step up. Communication was better. I think they've got an advantage with the double helmsman. Just things in that pre-start, in that final tack to the start line, you see Dean has to pick a time to cross the boat, whereas Jimmy's watching him the whole way on the leeward side, can stick very good lee bow tacks. And look, amazing effort by Magic to be out there, but Luna Rossa 4 starts to 0 and comfortably, and then they just sailed mistake-free. Fast, mistake-free sailing. It's going to be really exciting next in 2 weeks' time.
Indeed. So I thought we might take a little bit of an opportunity to, look back at round robin 3, because that's sort of what we're going to see in the matchup for the Prada Cup final. Do you want to have a little bit of a look through the racing? Shall we relive it?
Sounds good.
Let's do it. Alrighty. Okay, so here we see that pre-start, a little bit of a laugh attempt by Jimmy. Giles Scott actually said, "We've got them here, we've got them." He's too early. And INEOS led them off the mark. And in their last matchup, Tommy, I know they had a 0-0 split. And in this one, it came down to the final mark rounding. It was 1 second in it at this cross here, which was pretty amazing. There's the 1 second split. Then we had the port and starboard incident that was talked of at length, but if you look at it from an aerial view, it was actually quite obvious. There was about 23 metres in it, but a lot of speed going on there as well. I mean, you're someone who has actually experienced these speeds. What does it feel like when you're approaching each other at this time, in this kind of velocity?
It's just very hard to predict crosses and things like that. You might sit there and you use the old traditional method of seeing if you're gaining ground on your transit from their bow to the background, and you say, we're crossing. But little do you know that they're in a low, fast mode trying to bait you into trying to cross.
Yeah.
And so you sit there and go, okay, we're across on crosswind, but they're sailing a low, fast mode, and then they start coming up at you. And these boats doing these speeds, they can build speed at 40 knots, and then they can literally point into the wind and still burn speed off down to 20 knots before they have to build again. So the crosses, you have to have a lot more fat in it than you usually do in any normal boat, because these boats can really shoot and glide at you if they would like to. So it's difficult sailing these boats. Obviously, you have to think a bit quicker. You have less time to just sit there and look at the wind and say, I think we should do this. When you're coming into a cross, you need to, as early as you can, judge, are you crossing? Is it marginal? We're not crossing. Those three decisions. And then once you commit to one of them, you really got to commit to it. Pretty much, it's very hard to change your mind. The communication needed between the wing trimmer and the main trimmer and the helmsman, it just takes time. So, look, I'm impressed by the sailing and impressed by the top three. I'm impressed by American Magic too, but I think the top three teams are the right top teams.
I think when you take away that 1 week of development, that can make such a massive difference. I mean, you're no stranger to a massive travesty, shall we say, as well, in terms of having a big capsize. We saw that happen with you guys before San Francisco. It wasn't in competition, but I'm sure it still set you back some period of time. Our hearts go out to people when this happens, but I mean, what were they sort of feeling? How much would they have lost in that period of the competition? I mean, can you surmise?
Yeah, I mean, we went through the same thing at Oracle. Obviously, it was about 9 months before the competition, actually even longer, 10 months or so. But we had I think it was about 3-month rebuild of the boat. We basically had to rebuild the entire boat. And but this one, for sure, for the last 10 days, Luna Rossa are out there experimenting, trying new things, improving techniques, and Magic are just fighting to get back to where they were 10 days earlier. They just need to get the boat on the water in its original configuration. They wouldn't have been developing during that time. They had no time on the water to test things. They were just trying to get a boat on the water that was functional and worked. And for the most part, it did. I mean, for sure, you could see some gremlins in there. And then, unfortunately, in the last race today, they all came out, but the writing was already on the wall there. Luna Rossa were out in front, sailing very cleanly, and were going to be very hard to overtake.
Indeed, and you're no stranger to just how angry Jimmy can get on a start line. He didn't give them an inch. I think we even heard on the commentary, just put the foot on the throat, boys. And as soon as he crossed the finish line, it was not well done. It was next INEOS. He's obviously very focused at this point.
Yeah, it's such an intriguing matchup. Not only is it the different roles of two helmsmen versus a helmsman tactician. I mean, you heard Bruni say it about 5 times. He said, look, we've got INEOS next. Like, we need payback. And they really felt that loss. And that's a good thing. You need that motivation. It gets you up in the morning. It gets you training harder. It gets all the team motivated to put that extra in. So that's hopefully INEOS still have that drive, even though they got the win, and because it's very obvious to see that Luna Rossa do. And they're going to be coming back fighting. And yeah, my tip for Luna Rossa to win the Challenger Series is it's going to be close. I actually don't know who's going to win. I think a lot's going to come down to wind conditions.
And who are you picking for various wind conditions? We've got a question from the ranks. Tom, is it software experience or both to judge how to best sail these boats? And I guess that then also comes into conditions, because each of these boats will have a preferred condition.
It's both. I mean, software doesn't tell you if you're judging. You don't have the other boat on software, as far as I know. These guys don't. It's your software and then the wind on the water. every time I have, say, a ley line coming up, I sit there and it says ley line in 10 seconds. And then I look over my shoulder, look at the wind. If it looks steady, I know that it's going to be a pretty good software call. If it looks light, I know that it's going to be a little bit further. If I see a big gust running on the inside, I know that I can probably go a little early on that. So you use the software as a gauge, and then you make your final decision with wind on the water. And I think these boats and our boats and high-speed sailing gets a real hard rap for not being real sailors. I think all the best sailers in this game beat everyone in the traditional boats as well, with with Peter Burling, with
Giles.
Ben Ainsley, with all these guys, Nathan Outridge, Giles Scott. They're the best in slow boats. And once you get your head around how to sail these boats, the speeds, the technology, it literally comes down to steering a boat, looking at the wind on the water. Okay, I want to sail a little high mode to get into this gust a bit more. Okay, guys, let's go a little fast forward here to protect against the left-hand shift with these guys. It's the same communication you hear on the boat, and it's real sailing. It's just different real sailing. But the best sailors, these guys can come back into the slow boats and kick all the top slow boat guys' ass. They're
That's
that
why we
good.
see them come back into Etchels and things. And I know you're sailing the Etchel at the moment too. I mean, slow boat sailing is just even more particular in a way. Maybe the software is like an additional crew person as such, but it's not overriding.
It's definitely not overriding. You need to use it as a guide. And I mean, it's happened to me multiple times in Sail GP, and everyone's seen it, where I've had a software glitch and I've entered the start too early, or I don't know how long it is till the start. And that's me relying too much on the software and not having a backup watch and not double checking my ley lines or whatever it is. So software's a gauge, but you've really got to do your traditional sailing very well.
Yeah,
and then it can benefit you.
I mean, you're no stranger to sailing without any software, having won a gold medal in London in the laser, which, may I say, you also did after coming back from a defeat. So you're no stranger to that either. I mean, going forward in your career, what goals do you have? I'm going to go straight into the deep end because I know we don't have you for long. Watching this America's Cup, doing this Sail GP, there's so many people calling out, Nick, what's happening with Australia and the America's Cup? So I have to ask you the question because there's a bunch of people asking it online as well. Is there ever a possibility that we'll see an Australian America's Cup team?
There is.
Sorry.
Do I have a lead? No.
Yeah.
I don't have anything going. After the last America's Cup, I had some traction and got a bit of momentum there, but ultimately couldn't raise enough money. This time, I don't have really those leads. I'm totally open if one of them pops up.
Anybody out there?
At the
Please
moment,
help.
Yeah, anyone out there? But for sure, there could be something going on. It's not with me. I hope there is something going on. I'd love to be a part of it. If not, I'm just stoked to see an Australian team out there. I think next time could be really good. I think Team New Zealand, look, when they won the America's Cup off us, they said we want to make it a bit more traditional. They didn't do that, but I'm quite glad they didn't. They wanted more teams, and they haven't had that. It's because the costs have been too high. Yeah. I think they've got a revolutionary boat. I think they could downsize it. They could make it a little bit simpler and less design scope, even though so many things are very cool, but all the development in the sails, other than the little batwing sail on Magic, you can't tell the difference really in the sails, and they would have spent $10 million on sail development for millimeters here and there. Things like that, I think you can really cut down on. This is my 2 cents, and everyone's got their own opinion.
We love speculating on here. I think I'm going to rename it to Adventures of a Speculating Sailor. So go for it.
That's a good idea. Yeah. But I think they can reduce the costs.
Yeah.
This America's Cup was very, very expensive, and that kept a lot of the challenges out. I think just say they went to a 55-foot version of this boat, made a couple of the aspects of the design one design. They rolled on with the momentum from this time. the costs will come down by half, and then all of a sudden we've got an opportunity for an Australian team. We've got an opportunity for a lot of teams. Next time around, if New Zealand win and they do a few of these things, I think you could have 12 teams competing, and that would just be amazing. I'd love to be a part of something like that, and hopefully it happens in the future.
I completely agree with you, and I am 100% on board and here to help with whatever I can. But on that note, I'm going to read a message from John Bertrand, what he sent today. And he said, which is along those lines of the amount of competitors that have been involved previously and how across the sport it was, and reflecting on New York Yacht Club American Magic's loss today. But he said, way back in years gone by, many, many moons ago, the New York Yacht Club ran their Defender selection series to choose which boat they would select to defend the America's Cup. They did this for 132 years, up until when JB won with Australia too. In those days, there were multiple US syndicates vying to defend the Cup on behalf of the New York Yacht Club. When it came time to say goodbye to a hopeful defender, they would all pile into a tender, usually 12 blokes, in their red trousers, dark blue New York Yacht Club blazers, and cream colour boater hats. I couldn't find a blazer and it's bloody hot, so I didn't wear one. The head guy, as tradition goes, would then announce to the hapless syndicate skipper and his crew, "Gentlemen, you are now excused." And that was for the Defender selection, let alone the Challenger series, which was always massive. And I wish, in terms of tradition, I want that back. But in terms of innovation, as you say, how far have we pushed forward? Even just with your time with Oracle Team USA, there was massive developments in sailing.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's exciting. I mean, if, let's say, Luna Rossa won and they wanted to go back to something more traditional, that's fine too. I just think got to get more challenges, got to make it a little bit more exciting I mean, this is exciting, but it'd be great to have 10 challenges and not knowing who's going to get there. And you progress through the first round, the second round, the third round, and then all things like that. That would be amazing. And look, I think they're on the right path here. I think these boats are very cool. They're exciting. They go very similar speeds upwind to downwind, which is an important part. Like, a lot of people don't understand when you're deciding a class of boat for the America's Cup. If you have a boat if you do it in, let's say, a TP52, does 8 knots downwind, but it does 18 knots downwind, a boat rounds the top mark and then gaps away, and you have to wait until the next upwind to see how close they are. These boats actually, they do 40 knots upwind, 40 knots downwind, with very similar speeds. It works really well, and so the racing can stay tight if the teams are very evenly matched. And yeah, hopefully it gets more exciting racing, and the development of these types of boats and foiling in general. I think it's good for the sport.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree with you more. And so it's really nice that you're echoing a lot of the ideas that I've had on these shows previously. And I know JB and Andrew and I, or Dog, have spoken at length about trying to develop the Cup, because we see how much it helps to develop sailing as well. But on that, down to the business end, INEOS Team UK versus Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. I know that the headliners as such for these teams, you've sailed with both of them, Ben and Jimmy, in San Francisco on Oracle Team USA in that amazing comeback. They're a little bit older than you too, so you probably looked up to them at various times in your career. But I mean, what are the pros and cons from both of them? You don't have to say cons. Let's look at both. I don't know them, your mates, so we don't necessarily have to do that. But Jimmy versus Ben, but it's also Jimmy and Giles versus Kiko. Jimmy and Kiko versus Ben and Giles really is the matchup. I mean, what are their strengths? Should we start with INEOS?
Yeah, I think with INEOS, they have Ben Ainsley and Giles Scott, and they are the best small boat sailors in the world. They can read wind better than pretty much anyone out there. And the other day when they were racing that really fun race with Luna Rossa, I was watching it with a friend here, Troy Tyndall, and he was saying, "What do you think?" And I said, "It's shifty. It's big shifts, big pressure." I said, and Luna Rossa were well ahead. I said, "Ben's gonna chip away at him, and he's gonna come through." And I think halfway through the race, Luna Rossa had a decent lead, and I said, Ben will wind him down. He and Giles are that good at picking wind shifts, and for me, in 2 weeks, it doesn't really matter. Is it windy? Is it light? I think there'll be a slight advantage either way, but nothing major. It will be, is it offshore? Is it onshore? Offshore winds, I favour Ben Ainsley and Giles. I think they know how to motorboat. They know when they get a lift and pressure, they're going to go fast. They're going to squeeze the other guy. They get a light patch. They know how to wiggle through to get to the next gust. Well, they tack in the right spots. You see them in that race are often tacking well before a boundary because they see a wind shift. They're not boundary sailing. That's their strength, I think.
Yeah. They also, I think we could say they also know when not to tack, because we saw in that matchup when Prada and INEOS actually came back together, and we heard Giles say, "We're in phase, let's extend." And I remember that moment, and that's when it actually switched. So completely agree with you. They're a mastermind team. But Jimmy and Kiko, as you said, the double helm, it's definitely got something to say for itself.
Yeah, I think it does. On the shifty conditions, the double helm of Luna Rossa means that they don't have one person with their eyes purely out on the racetrack. They have the leeward helmsman doing the foil trim, and he is glancing all the time. You can't see because of his goggles, but he's looking at the foil, and then he's looking up and giving a little bit of input and then back down, whereas Giles is purely focused on the wind and where he's got to go. So that's why I think the traditional setup of helm tactician is better in shifty offshore breeze. And I think the very stable conditions, Jimmy and Keko are going to be very, very solid in stable wind conditions, onshore breezes, because they don't need to be head out of the boat so much. They can look at the other competitor, what's he doing, and stay in phase and play that game. Jimmy's match racing experience is very good. I've sailed a long time with Jimmy. I've sailed a lot with Ben. They are completely different. Jimmy runs off playbooks with Philippe Presti, their coach. He knows if they tack at this part of the racetrack, I want to let him go left, I want to let him go right. Ben, having sailed with him, he might have changed now, but he's just going off the seat of his pants all the time. And Giles, both of them, I think they're just assessing it as it comes, and I think they're a lot more natural sailors. If you get some curveballs thrown during the race, I would expect personally Ben and Giles to be very quick and sharp at adjusting to that. This isn't a diss at all on Jimmy and Keko. It's just they have another job to concentrate on. They never have their hands off anything and can look around and what do we need to do here. I think that's why they brought in, I think it's Pietro Sabello getting up and
the third member that's
running
going around the back.
Exactly. I think they've brought him in because now the helmsman can do the traveller and the mainsail trim. And so when they're a bit confused, where's the wind, they allow him to get up, go stand up the back, have a look and give his insight, that's what they hadn't been doing in the past. And I think they realised that they didn't have anyone to get their head out of the boat completely. And that was a really good addition this weekend. So, look, I think shiftier conditions advantage Ben in my book, and more steady conditions probably advantage Luna Rossa in my book. But it was impressive to see how fast Luna Rossa were yesterday in the breeze. That was a big step up from previous racing.
Indeed, and it'll be amazing to see just how much they improve over the next few weeks. There's no racing next weekend, but the weekend after we'll see them get into the Prada Cup final, which will be absolutely fantastic, no doubt, because as we know, they're just going to the death. And the last matchup that we saw was between Artemis and Emirates to face up against you guys, and that was some of the most exciting racing of the last Cup as well. I think it is pretty amazing, the Challenger final.
Yeah, it will be. And by all accounts, this one, I don't know who's going to win. I mean, I think before this, you had a bit of a form guide. Well, if you didn't predict INEOS. I had a few friends over in New Zealand saying INEOS are fast, they're going to be back in this. And so I sort of thought that they will be right in there. But yeah, it's exciting. I think, I just think it's going to be really good racing. I don't think one will gap out as much as we've seen. I think they're very similarly matched. I actually think Luna Rossa, they have big foils on, so do Ben. And we've been saying advantage Ben in the breeze and lighter maybe to Luna Rossa. But I think Luna Rossa probably have, maybe them and Team New Zealand have the best aero package out of anyone. So that's a low drag setup. So as it gets windy, their grinders are very well hidden. They've got very nice fairings. The way their mainsail seals to the deck is just beautiful how they've done that. I'd love to know the inner mechanics of how they get that shape working so well.
Coming out in you there.
I need to learn how to do what they've done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got to watch out for Keko at the next Moth Worlds. I think he'll have some new developments on me, but it's exciting, and I think I think both boats have their strengths and weaknesses, and we'll see.
Yeah. Now you're also a fan of F1, I believe, as am I. And I think that we've seen in this America's Cup too quite an amount of crossover. Do you think that's going to push our sport to new heights? I think it already has, but I think with the Sail GP, which you're obviously involved with at an immense level, and now also the Cup crossing over, it's a pretty amazing minefield, so to speak, of how far we can go with development.
Yeah, I think we're pushing the limits all the time, and I think everyone if anyone ever gets a chance to go through an America's Cup base, they're very fortunate, because no one's really allowed to do it. But I remember when I used to take people on base tours at Oracle, they were just in shock at how much the development is going on and how much testing we do. And you can see how the money is so expensive because we spend Formula One money pretty much. Like, this America's Cup, there'll be teams spending hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's and spending that much money. There's so much research and development, new things we've never seen before getting tested. Look, and 9 out of 10 of these things usually get binned because they don't work. But just the learning process of all that is it's very cool, and the sport's in a good place, I think, and the America's Cup comes along every 4 years, captivates the world and the attention of everyone, and that's amazing, but then it disappears again. At least now we've got Sail GP, and we've got an amazing season coming up next year, and I think that's going to be, hopefully, keep a lot of the viewers engaged, and if we can grab some of the viewers from the America's Cup to watch Sail GP, and then the Sail GP viewers watch more America's Cup, and the whole sport of sailing evolves and gets more people engaged in it, that's win for everyone.
Absolutely. And that's the whole game, isn't it? I mean, the idea is to spread the word of sailing to more people. And I found it really hard to explain to my F1 friends today that, that's it for New York Yacht Club. It's knockout. They've spent as much money as an F1 campaign, but now they're done. See ya. They don't get to race next week.
Yep.
They're out. So the Sail GP, of course, fills that hole, and we can see that racing happening every week and the development happening with the technology and the sharing across the teams as well, which is also taking everything up another notch.
Yeah, exactly. I heard that Luna Rossa, INEOS and New Zealand have been out there doing a bit of training together and stuff. So that's cool. Like, it should be promoted. I mean, more sailing together means it's going to be a more exciting race. You see, in the Christmas Cup, it wasn't that exciting in general, big gaps between the boats, but the more they sail together, the more they race each other, the more refined the teams get, and then it's closer racing. So I promote more sailing against the teams. I know it's a bit against the tradition of the defender is not allowed to sail against everyone, but in the America's Cup, it's usually, in the history of the America's Cup, it's pretty much always 5-0 or something along those lines. We lost 7-1 last time, with the exception of San Francisco 9-8. Every other one, it's a whitewash. So we want it to be more exciting than that. Imagine it's 4-all in the final. How exciting that'll be, and how amazing that'll be for our sport in March. So, yeah, bring it on.
I'm with you. Well, it's fantastic to have had you join us, and I've had a bunch of people saying it was great to hear from you. A few Canadians are watching and saying they want a Canadian team as well, so they're loving your ideas, and someone's saying that we should start a Kickstarter campaign to fund our America's Cup. Just for fun. That might help mine and Tommy Spithills. But yeah, let's talk and we'll see what we can do. But hopefully we might hear a bit more from you in the coming weeks. We'll see how we go. I know you're very busy, but I've been really lucky to have JB and Dog and yourself join us to help talk us through the racing, and we really value your insights. So thank you for your time, and if we don't see you before the end of the Cup, good luck with your second season of the Sail GP. I know that I'll be watching, and I encourage everybody that's watching this show to watch the Sail GP as well.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Guys, we'll see you very soon. I'm going to be live tomorrow just for a bit more of a wrap, just so that you guys can relive the action of today with me, and to say goodbye to New York Yacht Club. Of course, what a great series they've had. We will make sure that we pay them as much respect as we can in that sense, but maybe we'll have an interview with one of the team members too. You keep an eye out. See you soon, guys.